Welcome to Coombe and Curry Sports Cards Podcast, where collecting meets the game.
Welcome to the Coombe and Curry Podcast for an unplanned, unscripted, unauthorized solo pod from one half of the tag team champions, BC. BC here on his own. This is a first for the pod because we've both done single shows. We've done single shows where we've linked them together, but we have never done an unsanctioned, unplanned, unauthorized, unpermitted podcast. I'm sitting here. One of the things that's prompted me to do this is obviously Easter, and all weekend I've been sitting here thinking about when's the next break. The card shops are shut, and I need a fix of cards. So how better to do that than a single BC podcast? So I've jumped on. Now, the funny thing is, I don't even know if this is going to get released. I don't even know if I want to put this out. But I'm sitting here wanting my fix of cards, and this is the best way to do it. So that's where I want to start, really. I want to start and you know, I've been speaking to some of my my mates over here, and I think that's a common thing, isn't it? So I think one thing in the sort of in the hobby that interests me is the addiction side of it. Now, you know, me, MC and I, we're a year and a half in to being collectors. Everyone knows my story about Seattle Pike Place Market. But, you know, like since then, I've got an addictive personality. A lot of my friends can talk about these sort of the amusing things I've collected in the past. I've collected silver, gold, not so much gold, I guess, because of the money. I've been into coins. When I was a kid, I think where it all started, I collected postcards. But once I'm in something, I'm in 100%. And I guess to some extent, that's why we do the podcast. You know, we've got the Instagram, the TikTok, and I love the hobby so much. And as I said, once I'm in, I'm in. But what does concern me is that constant need for something to do with cards. You know, that buzz of getting the card in the post or winning the card in the break. And I wondered how common that is, because there is a danger, and maybe we don't talk about with breaking that side of it enough. I think what I find hard, and I've mentioned before, is if I'm in big with a break and I don't get anything, that can be a dangerous territory for me. But also when getting the big hit or getting a nice pull, that can also be dangerous territory. And I think the middle ground is a few cards, you know, just to sort of quench that need, for want of a better word. But over the Easter period, I've not been involved in any breaks, and, you know, rightfully so. Everyone's needs time with their family. Everyone needs to enjoy the holiday. But I wonder how many people out there are actually feeling the same, need that hit, because I'm seeing today a couple of breaks ramp up. So we're on Easter Monday at the point of recording. I'm just seeing them breaks, those spots starting to ramp up to see if we can get them over the line. And as I'm watching it, I'm buzzing, willing people to buy those extra spots so we can get into another break to fulfill that addiction. But for me, you know, even when I make my displays and when I do my posts and the podcast, everything at the minute is about cards. So I wonder if there's anyone out there who's prepared to come on and talk about that, because I'm sure there's been, like anything, I'm sure there's people out there who have got a story around that, want to come and share. That's something I'm quite interested in. The other thing I wanted to talk about today was spreadsheets. Now, who's doing spreadsheets? I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I got a bit of time on my hands and decided to comp every single card in my PC. It got me thinking recently when we were renewing the home insurance. These cards are, obviously you've got the side where you buy, they're your players, they're your team, they're your PC. And like with me, you've got a lot of stories around your cards, but there's obviously a value to the cards. So when I was last updating the home insurance, I started thinking about it, and I gave a value to the insurance company. And then it's interesting because when you sit down, even the cards that we post, a lot of cards that I would say MC and I operate more in the low middle end with the occasional high. But when you start adding them up, it's amazing the value. And I know that they're based on current comps and things can change, but the value of these cards is phenomenal. So I started doing a spreadsheet, and when linking that to the addiction side of it and how much I love the hobby, I even found that fun. Laying out my different teams with different players, comping each card, and like my slabs, I ended up putting the cert numbers in and stuff like that. So I've got a real detailed log of my cards, but got me thinking, how many people out there do a similar thing? And if you don't do a spreadsheet, I know there's various apps that you can subscribe to and you can log. I mean, even PSA have an app, and on there I've got my PSA slabs logged. But I wanted a way in which I could have everything down. And the cool thing is, with the Excel spreadsheet, you can just search the player, search the team, and that'll take you to that list. What that does create, though, is when cards come in, you can't just put them away in a box because you need to add them to the list. And I think as you start, I've got piles, got piles to the left, piles to the right. I think once you then start slipping them in the box and lose control, it kind of makes your spreadsheet a little bit pointless. It does create a job to be done, but then when you're talking about that fix and that need to be doing something with cards, like I said, the list is quite enjoyable. So something over the next month, 2 months would be nice to get people on and talk about how they document their cards, and is it something that they do religiously? Is it something that's easy to fall behind on? Some boring topics. It's a very boring topic, but I bet there's lots of people out there listening going, oh yeah, I do this, I do that. So I'm very aware that it's not the most entertaining for a podcast, but sat here on my own this weekend, it just seems just something that popped into my head. So something I wanted to bring up. The other thing I guess I've been battling with, which is interesting, and this is not unique train of thought, but it's that constant boxes versus breaks versus singles. What are people doing? Because I feel like for me, I need a bit of everything. Boxes, when I go into, let's say, Top Play Sports Cards, love the shop, love Shane. I want to support the business, but also there's a need to rip, isn't there? There's something that you get. You buy that box, you take it home, or open it in the shop. There's that saying, the hope that kills us. It's interesting because generally you buy that box, you're full of hope. You believe that you're going to get a case hit or something big. And then 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes later, you rip it open and you're filled with buyer's remorse. Or I would say that's the more common feeling. It's very rare you get what you want out of the box. That said, it only takes one lovely card to make you think that box has been worthwhile or you've enjoyed it. But with my personality, I was in Top Play maybe going back 3, 4 months ago. And I bought a mega box, one of them Phoenix International ones. And in the first box, I was with my mate. I pulled a nice Arroyo, I think it was lime green or neon green Mojo. It's numbered to 50, perhaps, or could have been 75. But the card was stunning. I love a lime neon green coloured card. I love the Mojo designs. And that should have been it for me. There were some other nice cards in there, but I had convinced myself that the Colour Blast was sitting on his shelf, so I went for one more box. Now that second box was terrible, and the feeling I had after was classic buyer's remorse. Should have left it there. I got a nice card that I was happy with. When I pull a Seahawks insert, it doesn't have to be a case hit. It doesn't even have to be numbered. I like a nice. For me, it's about how the card looks. I've got a lot of, I look at a lot of Insta profiles and TikTok, and people post. Sometimes I become conscious because I feel with my collection, I've got, I've got a Colour Blast, I've got a couple of downtowns, I've got some low number, I've got a 1 of 1, so I've got some decent stuff. But with us being new to the hobby, I'm sometimes conscious when you see some accounts that are posting absolute bangers that I would say generally are beyond most people's reach. And I'm posting a pink camo insert from Mosaic. Sometimes become a bit conscious, but that's where I am in the hobby, and that's what I love. I absolutely love those inserts. Some of those, I think I've discussed it before, using Mosaic as an example. The honeycomb case here, yeah, it's okay. Do I want one? Yeah, of JSN. But that particular card I probably want for the wrong reason, because I don't think it's the best insert. I would prefer visually purple reactive, pink Mosaic, green Mosaic above that honeycomb. What I do love though, and what I do have I think I've got a JSN, Arroyo, Cooper Cup, is the Genesis. Now that is a phenomenal card. But that's phenomenal not because it's a case hit, but because I think it just looks amazing. A recent discussion I had with a friend of the pod, Brock Nash, on stained glass, the stained glass case hit. I don't think he can get his head around the fact that I don't like that. I've never had a desire to get it. So it really is fascinating. But for me, when I was last in, Mark and I use the word segue quite a lot. So we'll segue back and forth here. I don't think we've done that before, but I spoke on maybe last pod or 2 pods ago, how there may be a way back in for me in terms of football. Soccer, that is. I hate saying that. But I went to Top Play. Now, this was not my last visit, and I don't think I have these cards in my hand, but I showed 3 or 4, I think they were from the $3 bin. There was a nice Jarrell, Quansah, a couple other cards. There was a Harvey Elliott rookie. And I picked them up because they were cheap. It was fun looking through the box, and they were nice looking cards. And I think that's got me back into perhaps the lower end of the soccer. And that's something that I find quite fun, searching through the $2-3 bins and pulling out cards. But where I say we're going to segue back and forth, one thing I wanted to talk about, I was out with my in-laws actually at the weekend, and we took my girls out to the library, had a bit to eat, and I was flicking through Instagram and realised that I don't know if anyone's had this before. I still can't believe it. Literally 50 yards to my right was the Johnsonville Community Centre. And as I'm flicking through Instagram, there's I think they call it Capital Comics and Collectibles Easter Fair. And it's in the Johnsonville Community Centre. I couldn't believe it. And I'd seen some pictures, and, there was a lot of toys and comics, obviously, hence it being the comic store. I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting in a park 50 yards to the left, and this show's going on to my right, and I had no idea. So I played it cool. It was getting a bit late in the afternoon, but there was still a couple of hours left to run. So I says to him, we'll pop in there, and the kids will have a look at the toys. And I've done a little video, actually. It's just before recording this, I've just chucked it on the Insta. But we went in there, and it was superb. There was all these old toys, and there was Funko Pops, lots of comics, which I had a look through. And funny enough, actually, I sometimes try and pinpoint the exact reason that I wanted to buy a card when I went to Seattle. And I think the King of Collectibles show could have been a part of that, because I remember wanting to look at comics, and I wanted to own a comic that was graded. And that was something I was looking at while I was in Seattle as well. And that was before I got my Tyler Lockett card. So at this show, there was some comics. There was a stand at the back, and they had loads of comics. There was a few graded comics. I think if I was going to buy a comic, it'd be Batman. I don't want to, how's your luck, Dom Lott says. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I'm more of a Batman, I think. Spider-Man, not for me. Superman sometimes, but if I was going to buy a comic, it would have to be a nice graded Batman comic. That's something I've always had in my head. But as I went round, there was a guy I'd seen at some other shows, and he had all his display boards are wooden, and they look custom made. And then he's got some nice custom made boxes of dividers, and there's little cool touches, like he had a wooden board and it had the prices on for the stickers, and then the stickers were on the top loaders. And I got chatting to him, a guy called Matt Loveridge, and he makes all these himself and sells them as well. So me, Brock, I think even Nick from KCC, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say it, but Hamish, we're going to be at the show in Wellington or Porirua later on in the year, and we've been discussing ways that in which we're going to display. But for me, these boards were fantastic. They look great, so that's definitely something I'll explore. But what's funny about it is, like I said, I never knew the show was on. So going in there, I got an opportunity to make a little bit of content. So I filmed. That's on Insta. An opportunity to give a shout out to Matt and what he does. And at some stage, I'll be making an order with Matt for our show. I picked up 2 cards as well, which is, it's funny because I waffle on a lot about memories and feelings and stuff like that attach to cards. But these 2 cards, I've got a Harry Kane. I'm not really a Harry Kane fan. My my sort of England support has sort of gone down, really. I've like kind of lost interest, but I saw the card and I just thought it looks fantastic. I'll post them on Insta with my filter. It's not great on here, but I picked up a Mo Salah silver as well, which is really, really nice. I'll be adding them to the spreadsheet after this podcast. But I had a good chat with Matt. I feel like, he's got potential to be another contact within the hobby industry, which is amazing. The custom stuff that he does, just through that complete chance of seeing that Insta post, Matt's probably going to get an order from us. I picked up 2 really cool cards, which will now stay in my PC because of this. And I got opportunity to make content. I got an opportunity for my girls to go in and buy some. I think they bought these little handbags and a couple of Barbies and stuff. So just a funny one. It sort of amused me how things pan out. But that was really cool. Yeah, really enjoyed that. I want to talk about social media as well, because again, I waffle on quite a lot about how we're trying to grow our page and we're trying to grow our podcast. It's quite challenging because really the social media is there because of mainly to propel the podcast. So we want to obviously keep increasing our reach, keep talking to different people. And I don't know if this is because of the podcast or the social media, but even this week I've had a chat from the Czech Republic reach out, wanting to do a collaboration. I know everyone's got their own reasons for that, but this is what it's all about. So I guess I'm coming on here for the other reasons I've chatted, but also just to ask for people that do listen and do enjoy the podcast, just if you get time, if you get chance, jump on Apple, give us a review, tick the stars, and if you can, find the time to share the podcast and just try and get people to see it's there. We'd really appreciate it. We're doing a lot of work on Insta and TikTok to try and put out content and find what people want. And like I said, because I'm all in, and once I start, I give everything 100%, 110%. So a lot of graft does go in. Maybe a newfound respect for these people, these content creators, because a lot of work does go into it. I do spend a lot of time sort of thinking of ideas and thinking what people would want to see. But out of everything, the thing that I love, the 2 things that I love the most is the podcast and just posting pictures of my cards. And I know a lot of people get enjoyment out of that as well, from posting their cards on their pages, irrespective of how many people are following. Because it's your collection, it's what you enjoy. And I think I've kind of got over that little hurdle now of being conscious of the level of cards, or what I perceive to be the level of cards that other people post. And really just enjoy posting what I post, and what makes me happy. And I think that's the really cool thing of the hobby. You can have people operating at an insane level, paying insane prices, but I was thinking about this listening to Sports Cards Live the other day. It might be yesterday, but you've got someone like what they call it, Mr. Fantastic. Is it Kevin O'Reilly or the guy who's bought the 12.5 million dual logo man card? He was wearing it at the Oscars. I don't think most people could actually afford to own that card, because even if you pulled the card, if I had pulled that card, for example, with the value like that, I couldn't afford to own it. I couldn't. That isn't a choice, because I can't afford to have a £12 million card sat on my shelf. So that would have to be sold to give me the millions to be able to enjoy my life, my family's life. You know, imagine that. You got a mortgage and bills to pay and stuff, yet you've got a £12 million card sat there. So not there's not many people who can afford to own that. And I was thinking about where my level is. You know what of course, you know, like me and my wife talk about it. You can save up and you can buy what you want. Of course you can. Like if you want to save up for, I don't know, what's realistic, a 50 grand card. That's, I say realistic. It's not. But if you save, you know, like you could save up for a Porsche, couldn't you? Or a car that you fancy, or you could get a loan to buy a card if it was your equivalent of the Porsche. But if you ended up with a 50 grand card, I guess that's your choice, and everyone can save up for what they want. But there's got to be a limit where it's too life changing for your to effectively own. So yeah, I got so hung up on, and I think that's why I hit the hobby hard, because I loved it so much. I wanted to kind of rush into having a decent base collection to feel like I kind of belonged in the hobby with people that have been doing it years. But that's totally wrong, because you know, from the day you start collecting or you enjoy cards, that's when you belong in the hobby. And I think however you collect, whatever makes you happy is what you should do. So I've got no qualms now posting my, you know, I think my last two posts were two pink camos. I think there was a Russell Wilson, there was a Tyler Lockett, and players that were playing that were made up part of that reason why I watched the Seahawks. So important cards for me. I've got my Russell Wilson. I spoke about this recently, the Downtown, which initially just got that on my display. I wasn't initially sold on buying it, but when you get it in hand and you look at it, it's just a magnificent card. So I'm so pleased I bought that. And I think at some stage, with how I feel about Wilson, I know Mick at KCC is not a Wilson fan, and that's the beauty of sport, isn't it? That's the beauty of cards, is that Wilson for me is, you know, I see him different to how a Broncos fan would see him, for example, and um that's the beauty of sport. Wilson was just a huge part of why I started watching the Seahawks. So I got a nice. I've not gone mad on Wilson. But I got a few nice cards. Enjoy it, yeah. Um, while I'm doing the pod, I'm nervous. Am I scared? I don't know. I'm nervous about the Topps changeover. I've just got in, um, you know, a year and a half in. I've just got familiar with all the products and everything with Panini, and obviously we've got we know who the suppliers are, we know who's got cards, but Topps have changed. And some of these pictures I've seen, the cards look phenomenal. They look really, really good. But I want to know how, when I'm going to get hold of these cards. And that's making me a little bit worried, because I want to get FOMO. I feel like I'm going to get FOMO. Seeing people pull nice things across the pond. So I'm now sitting here thinking, is there going to be a slowdown in cards in New Zealand? Is there enough Panini product to keep us going? You know, once we've bought all the retail stuff, let's say from Top Play and Card Crazy, are we going to be getting enough top stuff coming in to quench the thirst, to keep it going? Or are we going to be turning more to the singles market from the States, you know? And There's pros and cons to both. I spoke to someone recently saying, for me personally, if you haven't got product and no one else, and everyone else in the same boat, obviously you can't do breaks and stuff like that. Is that good? Slow down a little bit, reset, decide what you want to get. Have a little look at the singles market in the US and bring in some cards that you particularly like for your collection, where you're not taking so much of a gamble. And that's where I want to segue back to what I was saying about boxes versus breaks versus singles. Just ask people to get in touch and tell us what you think, what you do. What sort of, how much do you dedicate to a box? Because there is collectors out there who will just buy singles, who are they know exactly what they want, very specific, and they'll go and target those cards. But there's people, I would say most people want a bit of, do you break? I've heard some people come on Sports Cards Live, Sports Cards Nonsense, and say that they don't actually break, or they've been in a break and it wasn't for them, and they either go boxes and singles, or what makes different people tick is what's fascinating. And I say this too much probably, but that's the beauty of our podcast, or any podcast, that you bring people from the hobby in, and you can just find out what makes people tick within the hobby. Another thing I'm fascinated with, which I spoke about a lot, is how people display their cards, or when they spend time having a look at them. I made that joke before about pouring yourself a glass of red and spending your time with your cards, but I'm sure people do similar things. I've decided recently I'm just working out if I could actually show you, but there's pictures on the Instagram, but I've recently produced a small display on the right side of my desk. And I've got, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably about 10 cards on stands. I've got my signed helmets and my Funko Pops, which I'm not massively into. I just like I've got a couple of DX ones. I've got my Blitz, JSN, Sherman, and I bought an Alison Becker. It's not a Funko Pop, it's like a little model. But just, I guess, people that are important in not just card collecting, but, like the actual sport side of it as well. But yeah, I'm definitely not a Funko Pop collector, and I should have put this on my little agenda as well. Are you in the box or out the box? I'm definitely out the box, because I'm not getting Funko Pops specifically as an investment. I'm getting them because they're just fun, just to stick amongst the cards on the display. So I'm not bothered if they get dust on or whatever. I'm definitely not keeping them in boxes. But I know people, that's quite a big topic, isn't it? Are you in the box or out the box? So get in touch. Let me know. Is it sacrilege that I've taken my Funko Pops out of the box? Should they be in the box? There's probably people out there that would struggle to get their head around the fact that I have got my Funko Pops out of the box. But I think they look great. My helmets, however, they're still in the box. Now, Shane, if you're listening to this, let's get these display boxes in, because I want to get them into nice boxes, only because they've got autos on and I don't want them to be affected. Other than that, I'm definitely an out the box guy. And I love the display. I think it looks great. It's nice to look at. Every now and again when I'm working at the desk, I'll grab a card and have a look at it. So I think for me, a little rotation every now and again. It's nice to have some cards out, but the rest of mine sit in a box, hidden away. So an old topic, but it's one that always evolves, and it's one that I'll always ask new guests about, is how you display your cards. And I think one of the new things will be the Funko Pops, in the box, out the box. Have I got anything else today? Probably not. It's hopefully a surprise for MC, because as I said, unsanctioned, unauthorized, unplanned, unscripted. So hopefully he'll wake up and I'll put the podcast out there. Look, it's not always going to be the most polished show, and some people might listen to some episodes and not the other, and me waffling on might not be the idea of what someone wants to listen to. But look, I'm always I said at the start I wasn't sure if I was going to put it out, but I'm always prepared to put myself out there, take a little gamble. If someone resonates with what I'm saying or finds it interesting, great. I'm keeping it just over half an hour, so I won't bore you, hopefully. But just another, I wouldn't say plea, but yeah, just if you can support us, if you can share the podcast material, if you can come on, if you can give us a review, it'd be much appreciated. We want to grow the reach. I want to increase the numbers of people that are listening. And hopefully we can, the ultimate goal, and I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, is that we get some of these well-known influencers, hobby collectors and that to come and appear on the show or invite us on the show. It'll be cool to have people like that talking on a New Zealand podcast, and it's going to help grow the hobby, I think. And like I said, I want to be part of the growth within New Zealand. I want to do different things, put myself out there, get people talking, and just, I guess the ultimate goal as well is to have the right cards in the right people's hands. The more we talk, the more people understand what you collect and that. And I've seen great examples already where you'll get a collector that's part of the community who wants to get a certain set or something like that, and everyone rallies around and everyone gets that person their set completed. And I've seen a couple of great examples of that, and that's been one of the things that I've really loved in the hobby. And it's funny because people then know that person X is collecting set X, and that becomes kind of common talk within the hobby. And it's just, I just love it. You know, even the 2 cards I got at the show at the weekend, that's what it's all about. Anyway, I hope I haven't bored you. I hope there's something that resonates. I hope you've all had a great Easter. Hope you enjoy Easter Monday. Don't be stranger, get in touch. And MC, you will be listening. And I hope you enjoy this, boy. So regards to everyone's family, as always, and I will see you on the next podcast. Over and out.